Hello, welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today, let's talk about processing acorns into edible food. The acorns that I'll be using today are these acorns from a bur oak. Now these are still slightly green. You don't want to use the green ones. You want to wait until they start to turn brown or mostly all brown before you start processing them. Now acorns contain a large amount of tannic acid, and that varies. There are many different kinds of oaks: white oaks, red oaks, live oaks. This of course is a bur oak, and it's because you can see around the cap here, which is very large, you can see the burr-like structure that is around it. It's kind of hairy and burr-like. And so it has different kind of leaves. This is some that I got off the tree. They're a little dried, but again, it has a very oak leaf structure, and of course lighter on the back, darker green on the top, and very rounded edges, which is typical of the white oak variety. And this bur oak is also known as a mossy cup or a mossy cup white oak. And the Latin name is Quercus macrocarpa, and this was used extensively. There's at least 8 Native American tribes that used the bur oak for their food source, and they're very high in nutrition. There's a lot of starch in here, and it's been said that there is a lot of mosquitoes here, but it's been said that there is as much or more nutrition in an acre of oak trees because of the acorns than there is an acre of corn. So that's pretty significant, and many Native American tribes used it. So the ones that we know about were the Chippewa, the Ojibwa, the Dakota, the Ponca, the Winnebago, the Pawnee, the Cheyenne, and the Omaha. And so very widespread, but largely in the eastern part of the United States. And the bur oak, of course, is found largely in plains area. It's not usually heavy forested. It's usually out by itself. It can live up to 400 years, and they're very big, massive trees. Some of the largest oak trees that you'll see in the forest, just massive, massive trunks. And so you find them out, like I said, out more in open areas than you do in the dense forested parts of the woods. But anyway, these are very useful, very edible, and we're going to get to processing them. Stay tuned. So in our little canvas bag here, we have quite a large number of acorns, and you can see that. And these acorns, some of them are quite large. They're all brown, and they're excellent for eating. But the first thing we have to do is we have to take the outer hull off. The caps are already off, and I collected these a few days ago. And so we're going to use the cold process method. There's other ways using a boiling method, but we're going to be using these. You can see I've got the little creek, a stream here behind me, and we're going to be using that for a cold process of these acorns. So what we have here is a couple of large river stones. They did not come from this creek, ones I've collected at another river not too far from here. But we have our bag, we have our acorns, and then we have a large stone to grind them on, and then a smaller stone for the actual breaking of the husks, and also for the grinding process. So what we're going to do, finding a stable platform here for our rock, and using our grinding hammer stone, we just take these and we simply just gently crack the hull. You can hear it crack, and just kind of work your way around. Again, we don't want to crush the meat inside. What we're trying to do is open this up so that we can just peel this off, and you can see inside this one actually split in half, and that's perfectly alright. You can just discard the hulls. They're a natural part of the wood, so it's not a waste. But here we have the two halves of this acorn, and this of course referred to as the nut. You can see here together, and it's split in half. So we're going to do that to all of these, and we're going to continue to split and crack until we have these processed down. I'm going to crush them into smaller pieces. So we'll just set these aside, and we'll clean them up later. Just place them here. And again, this is a little time consuming, but for the amount of food that you get out of an acorn and an acorn harvest. You can find a whole lot of food in these acorns, and unlike animals and like hunting, these don't run from you. If you're a vegetarian, of course, you'll have no problem eating acorns. And you do need to know, however, that some of the trees, depending on what kind of tree they are, and that one came out whole, but many trees, many of the trees that have the acorns, you know, the oaks, they are only every other year. Some put acorns out every year, and some every year. Generally speaking, the ones that put acorns out every year have less tannic acid, and that's why we're leaching out of this. Tannic acid, of course, is very bitter. Acorns are not poisonous, although they might taste poisonous if you're not used to eating things in the wild. But tannic acid, of course, is what gives things that brownish color, as in if you're ever familiar with tea, and most of you are, of course, and just regular tea, if it's not green tea, but black leaf tea, turns brown, and that's the tannic acid. So that's what we're trying to get rid of out of these acorn nuts. And so we're going to process all of that, and we'll get back with you. So occasionally, as you crack these nuts open, you're going to find some little larvae, some worms inside. And if you're in a survival situation, of course, you can just throw this away, or you can take it and eat it. And it has a little bit of a nutty flavor. It's actually quite pleasant. So don't waste the protein. Just like that. It's very peaceful working down here by the creek, enjoying the sound of the music, except for the occasional mosquito now and then. It's actually very enjoyable. Alright, so we processed about half of them, and that's enough for a decent meal. And as you can see inside the bag, it's just the meat and the nuts, and a little bit of the hull left there. We'll put those in the bag, and what we're going to do is we're going to crush it up. Now, it started raining, so we're going to have to be quick about this. And then we're going to find a place under some rocks. We'll put all this bag and all of the crushed meat inside, and we're going to leave it for a couple of 3 days, and to try to leach all the tannins out. Now, we're going to put it inside the water in a flowing area, and we're going to weight it down with rocks, because remember, there's other creatures in the woods that also like acorns, so we want to make sure they don't get to it. And all we're doing here is we're just taking these acorns and we're just crushing the meat, the nut, in here really thoroughly. And we do this inside the bag, and it helps us not lose the meat. When we get this thoroughly crushed, of course, make sure that the bag is tied up well. And just a simple loop. You don't lose anything. And we got to find a spot where we can put it in the water. We're going to crush a little bit more. I got a few larger chunks in there. And this is going to help, and by crushing it like this, it will help all of the tannins leach out of our acorn nut. It won't be so bitter. And of course, you don't want to do this with the bag too full. So you can see we still have quite a little pile of acorns here. And but this is plenty enough for this particular batch that we're going to make. Alright, very good. Yep, all crushed up, no large pieces left. Alright, now we got to find a place in some flowing water where we can put this in and then put some rocks over top of it. Okay, so here's a pretty good spot. We've got some good flowing water, and all we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to put it down in the stream. We want it to be flowing water. Now this is mostly a rocky bottom, so that's okay. That's exactly what we're looking for. We want to make sure that this gets all thoroughly soaked. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take some other rocks and we're going to weight it down. Because again, we do not want animals and other things getting in here and getting to our acorns. Alright, so we're just going to weight that down. You actually want to build a little bit of a house over top of it. You want to make sure the water flows through. You want to make sure something can't get in here and pull out our acorns. So there we go. And we'll call that done for now. Pretty well hidden in the flow of water. And we'll come back and check on it in a couple of days. Alright, so this is day number 2. The next day it was raining yesterday when we came out here for the acorns. And what we're going to do now is we're going to lift up our rocks here and we're going to see how our acorns are doing. See here in the bag, a little bit discolored from the water, but so far so good. We haven't got any kind of animals in it or anything, and that's good. A little bit dirty, but we expected that, a little discolored. But we're going to keep putting it here in the water and just kind of turn it over a little bit and rinse it out, and then cover it back over with the rocks and just keep it in this little flow here. Want to make sure that it gets all leached out. We don't want any of the tannins left in here, so we make sure we have something good to eat. So put it back in here, cover it up with our rocks. So far so good. Alright, so here we are. It's actually been 4 days since I placed this under here, and I've checked on it a couple times since. And let's pull this out. You can see here's our bag full of our acorns, and it's been in running water now for, as I said, 4 days, so 96 hours roughly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over there to a small pond of water here in the creek, a larger area, standing water, and I'm going to rinse all this out really good until the water runs clear, make sure we get all of the tannins out. You can see this white bag has turned quite dark colored, and of course that's a lot of the tannins have been leaching out of these acorns. Of course, wearing our rubber boots today, but we're just going to get in here and we're just going to rinse this out really good. This particular creek is spring fed up that way, oh, maybe half a mile. So I know the source where this water comes out, and it's generally pretty good water. Alright, that's pretty good. We'll move up here a little bit, do it again. I want to kind of rub it. Make sure we get all of that out of there. Alright, very, very good. There we go, the water's running pretty clear. So one of the things that I like to show on the channel, of course, is doing survival and bushcraft type tasks using items that we would perhaps already have with us, such as a small canvas bag and a black garbage bag. This is just a 42-gallon. Get these at your local store. It's the 3 mil. It's what I recommend carrying all the time. Now I know that you can mix all kinds of flour and eggs and various other things like that with this. And if you're just at home, you can use electronic or electric processing things and food drying processors and all that, but I'm trying to teach survival skills that you would use out in the wilderness with just the very few items you might have with you. And so with this and this, we're going to open this bag up and lay it out in the sun. As you know, a black plastic garbage bag has many, many uses. We're just going to put this in the sun. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open this and we're going to spread out our acorns on top of this bag. And then we'll just let it dry in the sun. It shouldn't take too terribly long. And I had this rolled over and folded so as to keep crawdads and small bugs, water bugs and different things out of here. Of course, it's just, you know, a little bit of extra protein if you do get them in there, but yeah, we try to avoid that as much as possible, generally speaking. Alright, we got this open. We're just going to pour this out. And then, of course, we got some in the corners here. We can turn the bag inside out and shake out the rest of our acorns. Lay this aside. This will also dry much faster on top of this black garbage bag. Then what we're going to do is we're going to spread all this out. Now we have some very large pieces here that we didn't get crushed, and that's all right. We'll move those out, and as this drying process continues, we can go ahead and separate those out for further processing at a later time. So now that it's been drying for, I don't know, maybe an hour, we're going to pick up some of the smaller stuff and we're going to grind it in our bowl here using the same stone that we used before to crush it. And we're going to keep doing this until we get it all down to a very fine powder. And this takes a while, so this is one of those things you can't rush, can't hurry, and you don't want this bowl too full because you can't crush it really well if you get too much. So just a little bit in the bottom, crush it to a fine powder. The finer you can get it, the better. Now that we have all of this ground out, and I did 2 basically half bowls full, we're going to take this and put it back in here, and we're going to pour a little water in here, and we're going to make a bit of a paste, and we're going to make like a cake, and we're going to cook it. So kind of like a pancake, a type of fry bread, if you will. So what we have here, of course, is our bowl with our flour. We've got a flat river rock here, a little bit of an indentation right here in the top, the same rock we used to grind it with. And we're going to take this and we're going to add some water. My water jug, just a little. We don't want a lot. Again, we're not trying to make it super wet, just enough so that it'll stick together and like a paste. And so that little bit of water right there just about does it. You want it to where it will clump together and pretty much stay together, but not more than that. Too much water and it'll just fall apart. Okay, next we've got a little homemade spatula here that we just whittled quick out of some Osage orange that we found down by the creek. And we're going to take this and we're just going to smash it together. Put a little bit more water in with it perhaps. Now, a lot of recipes, a lot of people that use this, they'll put other types of binders in it and different things, but you have to be really careful what you do. Of course, change the taste and flavor of it, but also this is a natural recipe. You don't want to get too far off from what you can do out in a survival situation. Yeah, you can put bacon grease and you can do other types of fat, and it would be ideal if this rock actually had some kind of grease on it, but we don't. So we can put a little bit of water on it. It's definitely hot enough. You can see the water sizzling on there. So it's definitely hot enough to cook, and that'll help it a little bit perhaps. And kind of, yeah, it's quite warm. Don't want to get too much because we don't want to put our fire out. All right, so let's take our acorn here, make a little bit of a patty with it. And we'll carefully just lay it on here like this. We'll let that cook for a little while. It's been cooking about, well, maybe 20 minutes. I flipped it once and I actually cleaned out the rest here and made another small one. But this right here is together. Now, because it doesn't have any other binding agents in it, this is literally just acorns and water. So it tends to be rather fragile because it doesn't have anything else to hold it together. There's no other flour or anything else in it, like I said, and it's just water and acorns. So we're going to have to, we already tried to get it loose here, try to get it up all in one piece without touching the rock. Over here, put it on our plate beside the bowl, let it cool down a little bit, and see what it tastes like here in just a minute. One thing I will tell you about cooking this is you want to make sure that you make your acorn patties really thin. The thicker it is, the harder it is going to be for it to cook all the way through. It's going to want to burn on each side. It's just like doing, you know, anything else that you would make a patty out of and cook on a stove or a grill. You want to make sure that it's rather thin, and using something like this, a homemade handmade spatula, you know, kind of pat it flat, try to help everything stick and clump together, and then as it fries and cooks on top of your stone, it will tend to cook together and have a little bit more stability. But even right now, this has been on here for a couple of minutes, but it's still not cooked well enough to be stuck together. All right, so we're going to sit here, this log, in the shade and enjoy this bit of a acorn meal. All right, let's see here. It's already kind of coming apart. Let's go ahead and break it into a couple of pieces here. Here's what we have. That's really good. Very nutty flavor, kind of sweet, and no tannins left at all. Completely washed out and leached out by the water in the creek. Really good. I mean, you could live off this, you could eat off this every day and not mind. Very, very good. And again, this is for a more of a long-term survival or bushcraft scenario, because again, generally you want to take 3 or 4 days to let this leach out. Of course, there is the other method, which is boiling the acorns, and so you crush up the meat and you put in boiling water, not just bring it up to a boil, but get the water boiling first, put the crushed acorns in the boiling water, boil it for 5 to 10 minutes. Then you'll need 2 vessels for this. Then in the other boiling water, you dip out the acorns, put it in the next boiling water, and do that at least 3 times to leach all the tannins out. Now, acorns have starch in them, so when you do that boiling process, you boil the starch out, but which makes it unusable for, you know, making acorn bread and things like that. But you can still make, you know, flatbread like this, acorn pancakes, and you know, add it to your soups and whatever else you want. But actually, these are just great all by themselves. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to check the links in the description box below, and make sure and press the bell button to stay notified of all of our upcoming videos. And we'll talk to you next time. Lots of mosquitoes down here. Man, they're eating me up.